All right, let's talk about the Suez Canal. I know, you've heard of it, but have you ever really thought about what it means for you, personally? I mean, that phone you're holding, the gas in your car, the coffee you had this morning. Yeah, there's a surprisingly good chance it has a direct connection to this one single strip of water. It's a true artery for all of world trade.
I mean, seriously, how can one ship, just one ship, stop the entire world? It sounds like the plot of a disaster movie, doesn't it? But this isn't fiction. This is a very real question the entire global economy had to face not too long ago. It really makes you wonder, how can our super complex, high-tech world be so fragile?
Well, we all got our answer in 2021, and it came in the form of a container ship, a really, really big one called the Ever Given. This one single event was like a massive real-world stress test that showed us all just how shockingly fragile our global supply chains really are.
So, that's where we'll start. This isn't going to be some dry, boring explainer with a bunch of stats. No, this story begins with a crisis. A moment when the whole world was put on notice and global commerce was literally held hostage. For 6 long, agonizing days, the Ever Given was just stuck, jammed diagonally right across the canal. You know, it was a pretty simple accident, really. The ship ran aground during a sandstorm. But the fallout? Oh, that was anything but simple. Suddenly, you had this massive maritime traffic jam, hundreds of ships just piling up for miles, waiting, while the whole world watched and held its breath. And the cost? We're talking billions of dollars in trade, delayed, every single day. And this wasn't just, your Amazon package being a little late. This was a brutal wake-up call for entire industries that rely on just-in-time delivery. Factory lines were in real danger of shutting down because they couldn't get the parts they needed. It was a painful, crystal-clear lesson in the power of a single choke point.
Okay, so that begs the question, right? Why does this one canal have so much power in the first place? To really get it, we've got to zoom out a bit and look at why it's basically the ultimate global shortcut. If you look at a map, it's just this simple little line, a 120-mile man-made waterway that cuts right through Egypt. But what that little line does is huge. It connects 2 massive seas, the Mediterranean and the Red Sea. And by doing that, it creates a direct link between the huge economies of Europe and Asia.
And the difference this makes? It's absolutely incredible. Before the Suez Canal, ships had to go all the way around Africa's Cape of Good Hope. A super long, super expensive journey. The canal just slices right through, shaving off thousands of miles and saving somewhere between 10 and 15 days of travel. In the shipping world, that's a game changer. A massive deal in terms of fuel, time, and of course, money.
So what's actually on these ships? Well, pretty much everything that makes our modern lives possible. I'm talking about the oil and natural gas that power our homes, the electronics and clothes we buy, even the food on our grocery stores, and the raw materials needed to build our cities. It's like a non-stop, floating conveyor belt for the entire global economy.
But here's the thing. This amazing shortcut wasn't just there. It wasn't a gift from Mother Nature. It was a monumental achievement of human engineering and ambition. And honestly, its history is just as dramatic and packed with politics as the Ever Given crisis itself.
So they started building this thing way back in 1859, and it took a decade of incredibly tough labor to get it done. Ever since it opened in 1869, its history has just been one big moment after another. You have the Suez Crisis in 1956. That was huge. It wasn't just some political squabble. That's when Egypt's leader basically said, "This is ours now," and took control away from the British and French. That sparked a whole international conflict that completely changed the power dynamics of the era. See, this canal has always been at the center of world politics. And part of its design genius is that it's a sea-level canal. Now, what does that mean? Well, think about the Panama Canal. It has this really complex system of locks that lift ships up and down over the land. It works, but it takes time. The Suez Canal? Nope. Ships can just sail straight through, from one sea directly into the other. It's an incredibly clever design that's all about 2 things: speed and handling huge amounts of traffic. All right, so we know what it is and how it works. Let's talk about scale. Because the ripple effect from this one canal on the global economy is, well, it's hard to even wrap your head around how big it is.
So how crucial is it, really? I want you to remember one number: 12%. 12% of all global trade passes through this one canal. Just let that sink in for a second. More than a tenth of every single thing the world puts on a boat floats through this one narrow passage in Egypt. It's wild.
And that 12% adds up to an insane number of ships. We're talking tens of thousands of them every single year. That makes the Suez one of the busiest, most crowded, and without a doubt, one of the most critical shipping lanes anywhere on Earth.
And all of this creates this fascinating and, yeah, sometimes pretty tense global ecosystem. On one side, you've got Egypt, which owns and runs the canal. That gives them huge influence and brings in billions of dollars. And on the other side, you have everyone who depends on it. The giant shipping companies, oil and gas exporters, and the massive economies in Europe and Asia that need that shortcut to stay open. It's this incredibly delicate balancing act, all revolving around a 120-mile strip of water.
So, what's next? After a crisis like the Ever Given, you can bet everyone is thinking about the future. It was a massive wake-up call, right? And now the pressure is on to make sure a global shutdown like that can never happen again.
And we're already seeing a big push for change. People are talking about more expansion projects. But now it's not just about getting bigger ships through. It's about building in resilience, making the channels wider so a ship can't get stuck like that again. There's also a rush to get new navigation technology in place, kind of like a digital safety net. And of course, as global trade keeps growing, the canal just becomes more important, making it a huge asset, but also a potential flashpoint if there's conflict in the region.
Which brings us to the big, final question. The whole Ever Given mess was a huge wake-up call. It forced us all to admit how much we depend on these critical choke points. It proved that a single point of failure can have massive global consequences. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Have we built a global system that's so interconnected its most important links are now just too big to fail? And what happens if they do?